My name is Harrison Wheeler, and you're listening to Technically Speaking. In this episode, I sit down with Andre Wright, co-founder of Humanize My Hoodie, based in Iowa City, Iowa, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. The mission of Humanize My Hoodie reads, "The Humanize My Hoodie movement originated from a demand to end the killing of Black and Indigenous people across the world. As descendants of slaves, we recognize how hoodies have been used to amplify the myth of Black criminality. Our mission is to debunk that stereotype by designing revolutionary campaigns for Black and Indigenous people of color to be humanized, not criminalized." I sit down with Andre to discuss the origins of Humanize My Hoodie, his personal journey through this movement, and how design plays a role in activism.
Well, I'm Andre Wright, co-founder of Humanize My Hoodie, fashion activist, author, husband of one, father of three, community leader, someone with a lot of morals and values, someone who's found purpose, somebody who can be looked at as a symbol of hope, inspiration, all those different things, man. You know, at the end of that, I'll put I'm a Black man with a hard period, especially at this time. It's really good to really just put a hard period at that. It just feels good to be Black right now. Everybody who Black right now feel liberated. So everybody Black right now, man, should be feeling like, royalty, you know what I mean, or gold, like, especially with all the treatment we've gotten all these years, man. Everybody's screaming Black Lives Matter now. So, feel good.
How did you get to where you're at today in finding your voice in Humanize My Hoodie, and how has that evolved over time?
I think for me, I saw a lot of injustices as a child. I mean, I was talking to my mother probably 2 weeks ago, and she's, I was just telling her, like, like, you guys moved us out of a predominantly Black neighborhood, and for us to escape prison, right? So because I mean, essentially, it's the people that we're surrounded around in our environment that allows us to get into those things we're not supposed to get into. And when I was talking to her, I said, "But you took us and put us in a predominantly white neighborhood, thinking that it would be better for us, but we dealt with racism at a young age, and because of that situation, I've always felt like I had to fight in some kind of way, whether it be like just being better than the next person like this in this kind of way, like sharpening my skills, whether it be like using my art as a way to attack things." Even as a child, I didn't even know how to speak up against that stuff. And I know a lot of people right now don't know what to say, like, especially a lot of young people. I wish I could have did more in my youth age, like these young people are right now. I wish I was more like that. I wasn't like that as a youth, but I always felt it. I always felt like I could do something, you know what I'm saying? So when I got a chance to get the stage and like my platforms, as they started to evolve, I started to do really bold stuff. Like in Iowa City, where it's 90% white, I would do shows that would be like called All Black Everything. And I would hire only Black models. I would only bring on only Black designers, only Black photographers. And I was making a stand. I was just deliberately saying, man, on my watch, I'm not gonna allow you guys to not pay attention to us. And I'm gonna use every ounce of power I have to make sure that we're seen. And so I was just using my gifts and my talents, and just using historical things and bringing it to light. And I think where the purpose aligned is when Jason made a post, and I've been friends with Jason since I was like 16 years old, and Jason's my business partner with Humanize My Hoodie. He's a longtime activist, president NAACP, inspiration to me and many others, just from his activism, standing up for us and who we are and, our principles and stuff like that. So when he made a post about he was going to teach the next semester of his class in academia and wear his hoodie for the whole semester. I was like, oh man, this is it. Like it just clicked like that. I was like, yo, look, I called him right away. I said, let's not just do it in a classroom, but let's think of a way to do this as a global thing, because I think everybody, it would resonate with everybody, not knowing that it was going to resonate with everybody like that. And so, thinking 4 years later, we have an iconic product that became like the I mean, this movement is the movement of 2020 for Black lives. When you think about, George Floyd, the lynching of him and how he was lynched and all the stuff we were doing before that. And if you put it in context of where our movement was right then, it's at our headquarters. So who had the loudest voice during that time? It was us. So it took that for people to just see us, and now they see us and they like, oh, this was happening. I can't believe this was around. So it's one of those moments right now. So it feels good to be Humanize My Hoodie. It feels good to be Black. It feels good to be all that.
Right. Right, because I just want to go back to you and Jason.
Yeah.
Jason is actually in
Yeah.
Minneapolis, and you frequently make trips up there.
Yeah, like twice a week. Twice a week. That's like my second home. My wife's like, why is how many like I'm always up there. We always I'm up there. A lot of our business is done up there. In fact, I don't even ship and do any of that stuff from Iowa anymore. It's all in Minneapolis. I've already got my fulfillment. I got my person who's doing it. I don't have to do any of those things anymore. So
I want to go back to a term that you mentioned earlier in the episode, and that is fashion activism. What exactly is that?
I think it's it's one of those things where it's a broad term, and I think for me, when I'm saying I'm the fashion activist, it's saying that I'm using my platform as a fashion designer to speak out against injustices of Black and Indigenous people of color. So I'm being very specific when I'm telling people that I'm a fashion activist. Now, I think there's many forms of that where you think about sustainability and the lifespan of a garment. I think there's some activism that needs to happen in the fashion industry as a whole. And because of that, there's people that are saying that they're fashion activists because they don't want the landfills to continue to be filled up with fashion pieces, which is like the number 2 product to be actually in a landfill. So it's because of the fashion industry that the world is kind of sinking. So it all makes sense. So it's kind of like one of those things where you have the activists and they're speaking out in different ways, using garments and using, different materials, different ways to print. It's all kinds of different forms of it. Just like as a metaphor to Black Lives Matter, it's like, like the same thing. It's like fashion lives matter. You know what I mean? Like in a context, if you could put that in context. So that's what it is, man. It's more of like me putting myself in a situation where it's like now I can identify as something and people can identify me as something. So versus just saying I'm a fashion designer, they can say, man, Dre is the fashion activist, which is something that I've been doing for a long time. Again, we go back to, just the shows and just being radical and just speaking out against, injustices for us and using my platform to do that. I don't know anybody in Iowa that has been does stuff like that. I don't know anybody. You tell me.
One of the most important things about having a platform is that platforms give you a level of amplification. What are some ways in which Humanize My Hoodie has grown in ways that you didn't expect it to?
Man, it's I don't even, bro. I can't even explain that. Like I don't even know how to explain that. Like to be 100% honest, like from the time we trademarked it 2 weeks after, I was at New York Fashion Week. We had the attention of everybody looking at me with that hoodie on. I decided at that time to invest everything that I had into that product because I understood where it was at. From there, man, we met like Jane Elliott, from Meek Mill to sit next to it to, Ancestor Nipsey Hussle, sitting next to it to, man, multiple select Keisha Cole. I mean, I could just go on and on. Man, everybody has seen those three words, humanize my hoodie. Like
Yeah,
for
man,
sure,
it
facts.
resonates.
To like Rock Nation calling us on the phone and saying, hey, we want to do something with you guys. To us being able to talk to corporate partnerships and saying, man, we really don't know if we really want to do this or not. Like we have the option to say, man, we don't know, man. We actually might say no to y'all, you know? Like that's, I mean,
That's
I've never
powerful.
felt like that before. They actually want to date us now. You know what I'm saying? Like we actually look kind of good in the club. So I never had that type of impact. So, you know, outside of just, you know, the glitz and glamour, I think what people really understand is that we're real genuine.
Right.
And at the same time, there is
Right.
a human nature to it. It's just me and Jason who really care about people in a real, you know, radical way. Like we really love us in a radical way. If you've been to any of our presentations, people understand that it's bigger than a hoodie. It's not really, I always tell people if they're purchasing a hoodie, they're not actually purchasing a hoodie, they're purchasing a feeling, a way of people, you know, like the way we make people feel is like what we expect other
Mm.
people to make other people feel, you know, in a radical way. It's about radical love. You know, from the time we give out hoodies to the kids, from the time we share space with our allies and talk to them about, you know, different parts of our lives, traumatic parts of our lives that, you know, it's emotional distress. So, man, we made all kinds of impact, bro. Like it's been one hell of a ride, man, for 4 years, man, straight up. I couldn't change nothing from peaks to valleys to not having some money sometimes to driving 18 hours from New York to New York Fashion Week to, you know, building our own documentary to having our own book. I mean, I could keep going on. I mean, I just, you know, I think I think for me, it's always been like, you know, what's the next project? And like, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, what's the next project and let's go. You know, I've always been that person like to do that, whether it was like something at a 9 to 5 or if it was me doing the entrepreneurial stuff. We doing music now, bro. We got a whole, you know, situation. I ain't even told you about that, man. We got a whole situation.
Hmm. So how has your definition or perception of design changed since going into fashion activism?
I think what it is, man, it's I think it looks like a future of activism, man, a future of fighters, a future of resilient people, a future of, you know, people with multiple messages, a people of change. I think it's also, you know, on a more detailed side, I think it's an evolution of Black enterprise and Black businesses and Black ownership and it's, you know, education. And I think it's, you know, moving away from the police and divesting from the police and like learning how to do more community models and like how can we, you know, protect ourselves and not have to make those calls. And you know, I think it's just us becoming a lot smarter, man. It started as like us talking about a hooded garment, but that's evolved into a whole nother conversation now. You know, when we're talking about Black lives, I think at some point, I'm very optimistic, man, that we're gonna be able to take those words off the hoodie, and if we could just wear the hoodie and not have to even say "humanize my hoodie" as Black
Hmm.
people.
So in this next question, Dre, you know, we had an opportunity to go to the same school. We actually worked in the same firm, granted at two different times. Since kind of moving into fashion activism and seeing the growth of Humanize My Hoodie, how has your perception of design changed since you started out?
Oh, it's definitely evolved. I mean, you got to think. I came from an era when we had to actually use protractors and like, you know, do the T squares and like actual use hand. That's how I learned how to do design. So I can go all the way back to that to where we at today, where I'm not even thinking about. I probably don't even do as much design in front of the computer. It's mostly here. So it's like, how can I design mentally versus how can I actually do a design like on paper or on computer or even on a hoodie? Like, how can I design my life? I think that's kind of where we're at right now. Like, design evolutions become a holistic thought discipline, whatever you want to call it. And that's where we're at. Just like how on May 26, 2020, the world changed forever for Black people. I think, for politicians, they're going to be held a lot more accountable. So there needs to be a new design of that. I think, policing's going to be, held accountable. There's a new design for that. I think advertising and the way you show people is going to change, and there needs to be a new design for that. So design in its evolution, man, it's the future of how we move. Like we're so important right now. People don't even understand designers and people who are creatively, enhanced, or creative thought leaders. Man, these people are on top. Like straight up, we get a chance to rebuild. It's already been destroyed, so it's time to just rebuild. And it's this new future of people that's going into that rebuilding process. Design is definitely at the forefront. So it's definitely evolved from me thinking I was just going to be working at some advertising firm to who I am today. Like I'm thinking about design right now. Like how am I going to design what I'm going to say next before I say it to you? That's what it's all about, man. So we on a whole nother level, man. So whatever they teaching in school, they need to elevate that design thinking too, straight up. It's real world stuff, I mean, but you gotta think, let's go back to M&D just for a second. But without those building blocks that we got at M&D, man, I couldn't even be on the phone talking to you like that. You know what I mean? Like I learned a lot at that place. A lot. Meaning like from just knowing how to interact with other people to just having time to feel like I'm in a real situation. Like black, I'm just gonna talk about black people just for a second. Black people never had any situations like that. I think we the only two, maybe. There might have been a couple others after us, but like, bro, when I was there, it was like I might have been the first black person they ever hired, man. I don't know. But it just felt like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they
Yeah, man. I mean, not much has really changed. I think in the latest report by AIGA, black folks still only make up
changed that.
3% of the makeup in the design industry as a whole.
Man, see, that's what I'm saying. So a lot of us been asleep, man. So the activism part is like us just being in those roles and being like, there's this term called uplift suasion from the 1790s. They used it on black people, mostly in Virginia, but you can look up the term. But the thing about it, what uplift suasion was, it was just a way to keep us calm, to keep us like them, to talk like them, to do their stuff, to, like not be loud in classrooms, to not be who we really were, not to be black. And so because of that, we have the situation we have today. That's why it's so important for all of us to be radical and be activists and to be talking about injustices in all facets of work. That's why you see me, I gave up my whole career just to say, man, look, I'm fighting for y'all, man. I'm willing. I ain't only care about no money, man. Y'all just take care of me. I'm straight. So it's important. That's why I like to be able to talk about that stuff on these type of platforms, because you have a whole different audience that's going to listen to this, and they're going to be like, man, why he was always saying he kept saying black stuff, man. Like some people gonna say that, man. Like, you know what I mean? Some people just still ain't gonna get it. But what's important is for us black people to be celebrated, man. They gotta celebrate us, man. We've been, we've had our head, a knee on our neck for like 465 some years. We done with that.
Thanks, Dre. I really appreciate you being on the show today. And I just want to wrap up. What are some final words you want to leave with the audience today?
I would say just continue to follow the movement, continue to strive for greatness, continue to just be who you are, chase your passions, don't chase the money, follow your purpose, come from the gut with everything. And if you want to know more about any of the stuff that I've been talking about, from the fashion activism or, just about the Humanize My Hoodie movement in general, you can follow us at humanizemyhoodie.com. Peace.